Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha Agajanana Padmarkam Gajananam Aharnisham Anekadam Tam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe. Welcome to all for this session on Ganesha Purana to chapter 78. In the previous chapter, King Shurasena, out of compassion, was interested in taking that leprous evil man also along with him to the Ganesha Loka, for which the Ganesha's messengers told him that it is because of that evil leprous person the vehicle is not able to float. But then king was interested to know what evil act he has done in his past life. And then they started telling his story. In the past life, he was born as a Brahmin in a Brahmin family and was having the beauty like Kama, and his parents were offering a lot of love for him. Then, out of cruelty, he killed his own parents and for his lust for a prostitute, and then even killed his own wife. And then he also spoiled the modesty of his teacher's wife. And because of that reason, he was cursed by that lady Sulabha, wife of sage Kalabhi. And because of that curse, he is born as a leprous person. He spent a long time in the hell. And here's something that we need, that is important, that we need to note. Irrespective of whether a person is born as a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra, irrespective of the class in which he is born, if a person commits a mistake which is against the Shruti and Smriti, if he makes a mistake, he will going to be punished in the hell. And in fact, the punishment compared to a Shudra is multiple fold to a Vaishya, and compared to both the Shudra and the Vaishya, it is of much higher to a Kshatriya, and it is much higher if the same mistake is committed by a Brahmin, because a person who is born as a Brahmin is very well aware, because of the knowledge he is very well aware what is good and what is bad, while a Shudra is may not be having the required knowledge, and he need to be taught about what is good and bad. And even the Vaishya and the Kshatriya need to be taught about this by a Brahmin, who is assumed to be the guru, the master for all other caste. And then, if the Brahmin himself commits such a mistake, he will his punishments and his suffering will be multiple times higher compared to the others. But then, because of the deeds one do it in their past life, because of the evil activities the person do in their previous life, person will reborn in different caste, starting from Shudra to Vaishya to Kshatriya to Brahmin. If he has done all good deeds in all his past life, only then a person may be born as a Brahmin, so that he will get a better opportunity to improve himself. But if a person has committed evil acts, then he may be born in the lower caste. Because of that reason, it would be difficult for him to achieve the heights. But in spite of that, irrespective of whether a person is born as a Shudra or a Vaishya or a Kshatriya, if he still did all meritorious work in the present life, irrespective of his birth, in the next life he will be born into a better caste. Better caste means he will get a better opportunity to improve oneself. And that is what all the Shastras are telling. And that is what is being told by the messengers of Ganesha. After he had heard the messenger's speech, Shurasena was severely shaken and said to them, I am not aware of this evil activity. Then, getting up again, the king bowed to those heavenly messengers. Exceedingly pained, he said to the god's messengers, Please be kind and tell me everything, O messengers, about the way that could remove all the wickedness of that evil man. Then the God's messengers told to the compassionate king, O king, get up, get up. We are going to tell you a way to remove his wickedness. Become attentive and listen to it, O tiger among the kings. There is a famous name of Ganesha consisting of four syllables. Gajanana. These are the four syllable word. Reciting it in his ear, there will be an end to all his wickedness, akin to the way the darkness totally disappears at sunrise. Since he does not have a prerogative over any other way, he should recite this name. You should be reciting this name because he was such an evil person that he is not even eligible to recite the name of Gajanana. Such he has done such evil activities, and there is no way for him to do anything else apart from that. When he is not even able to, not even been having the power, he is not even been allowed to recite the name of Gajanana, then how he can perform whether Sankashta Chaturthi or any other vratas, because he did such evil acts in his previous life. So then they told him the only way that he could be taken to the Ganesha Loka is if the king who had performed the Sankashta Chaturthi Vrata with that benefit, if he repeats those four syllable name in his ear. As a result of the messenger's statement, the king recited the aforesaid prayer, namely the name of Ganesha, in four syllables into the Vaishya leper's ear. And hearing Gajanana, the four letter word, he acquired a celestial body. When all his evil had gone merely by hearing that name, he ascended the flying vehicle and illuminated all the directions and regions in the same way as the sun with its fiery splendor illuminates everything. In accord with Vignaraja's command, the messengers immediately took the flying vehicle and all the people to the Vinayaka's abode. Brahma, who is telling this story, continues. Now I have narrated absolutely everything that you asked to hear, O faultless man, because he is telling this story to Vyasa about the power of the name Gajanana and the Sankashtahara Chaturthi Vrata, which is highly meritorious of the highest quality, proper, renowned, and gives long life. Every success is given due to hearing about it. All pains are appeased, all obstacles are destroyed. What else do you want to hear? Then Vyasa, on hearing the story, he replied, I am still curious, so tell me who else had performed it. So for that the Brahma replied, Rama, Jamadagni, previously performed this vrata and he gained long life, knowledge, victory, and fame. Then Vyasa asked Brahma, who was Rama and born from whom and in whom, O grandfather? Here, Rama is not about the Rama, Dasharathi Rama, who is the son of Dasharatha. Here, the Rama, there are three different Ramas who come in the Puranas among the avatars of Vishnu. The one was a Parashurama, about who is the son of Jamadagni, whose story we are now will going to hear. And the second Rama is the Dasharathi Rama, son King Dasharatha. And the third Rama was a Baladeva Rama, Balarama, son of Vasudeva, and elder brother of Krishna. So there are three different Ramas here. So then Vaishya asked him, how was Rama born, from whom, and in whom, O grandfather? I have asked you, so tell me everything in detail. For that the Brahma replied, in the White Island there was a great sage Jamadagni who knows the past, present, and future, and with his mind produces the creation and destruction, and gives favors and disfavors. He caused the gods to tremble. The same applied to his wife, whose name was Renuka. Kama's wife did not even possess a particle of her beauty. She was so beautiful. Jamadagni's wife Renuka was so beautiful that even Rati, the wife of Kama, was no match for her. And she became famous in the world just like Rati. And since she infatuates the universe, who can describe her? To acquire the brilliance of her eyes, water dwelling chakora birds and deers which eat pleasant grasses. That means her eyes, the brilliance of her eyes were compared to the chakora birds, and the deer performed austerities in the forest, and the moon uh, worshipped Ishvara in order to acquire the brilliance of her face. She is without beginning or end. She is fundamental matter, the goddess, the mistress. Rama, this is Parashurama, who was Vishnu himself. He is one of the incarnation of the Vishnu, the Lord of Yoga. Hari was born in her from the very illustrious Jamadagni, who was like an embodiment of Ishvara. His body was so handsome that he was like the embodiment of Kama's destroyer. His virility and strength were celebrated, and he obeyed his mother and father. He was dedicated to honoring the gods, Brahmins, teachers, wise men, and cows, etc. And he was a scholar of the Smritis, the Shastras, the Vedas, and the Vedangas. In eloquence, he was Brihaspati's equal. In forbearance, the earth's equal. In depth, the ocean's equal. And he was wholly obedient to his parents' commands. On receipt of a command from his parents, he went to Naimisha forest, where he concentrated his thoughts entirely on the study of various branches of learning. While Parashurama was away in that Naimisha forest performing the austerities, the tapas, while he was gone, there was still the very powerful king Karthaveerya. We know about the story of the king Krithaveerya, whose son was this Karthaveerya. And by the blessings of Gajanana, he had 1,000 arms, before whose majesty the entire earth was always servile. Lakshmi remained steadfastly in him, a portion of Vishnu who confers the objects of all desires. And the Vishnu himself, a part of Vishnu, was also residing in that Kartavirya. In battle, he simultaneously releases 500 arrows for the destruction of his enemies, and famous for his virility and strength, he was honored by the host of gods led by Indra. Because of his 1,000 arms, he was could able to release 500 arrows at a time. He had countless elephants, foot soldiers, horses, and chariots, and when his troops move out, they cover the earth's surface just like the clouds in the rainy season covering the sky and the sun. His enemies flee in all directions when they hear the sound of his conches. Blowing the conch is basically the way to invite someone for a fight. But if Karthaveerya could able to throw 500 arrows at a time, which enemy could able to stand in front of him? They used to flee from the battleground. Just like myriads of rutting elephants when they hear the roar of lions. When the king spontaneously makes a roar equivalent to the sound of 500 conches, the creation shakes. O excellent sage, the Brahma is telling this story to Vyasa. On a whim, he marched out with his army of 4 calves. Here, 4 calves is basically the people who drive chariots, the warriors who go on elephant, the warriors who go on the horses, and the warriors who go on foot. He wore blue garments and had a blue parasol. His soldiers likewise. He moved to and fro across inaccessible forests, rivers, and mountains, spotting many groups of animals and killing anything and everything. Then, on the peak of Sakhya mountain, he saw an excellent hermitage resembling the home of Shiva. The mountain dweller on Kailasa, the king asked his attendants who owned this excellent establishment. So that same king Karthaveerya had come for hunting in the forest, and he was killing every animal that comes to his side. And while wandering here and there in the forest, in the regions of Sakhya, he saw on a mountain top a beautiful hermitage just like the hermitage of Shiva in Kailasa, and he asked his people whose hermitage it is, which particular sage is living here. Then the king's attendants, they told him, he is the renowned Jamadagni, the personification of another Surya, a very fortunate man. This sage brings favor or curse, and a myriad of evils is destroyed by the very sight of him. Go there if you wish, and you will see him, and then through your favor, everyone will get benefited. Brahma continued the story. After hearing this speech, the king became eager to go. He halted the entire army, only taking its chiefs at that particular moment. And then he went to Jamadagni, the tiger of sages, the repository of austerity, and saw him seated on kusha grass, glowing like fire. He bowed, as did his accompaniment, his body prostrate. The soldiers then sat down in many spacious halls and in boyars with rows of trees. But the king stood before the sage, surrounded by four soldiers. The king, powerful son of Krithaveerya, sat on a seat prescribed by the sage, who then honored all of them with water for the reception, grass for seeds, and so on. Then he gave them cows, and with his pupils he honored them all. So, like a guest who appeared at his house, the sage Jamadagni honored the king's party and offered them water to drink and offered them the grass seeds. Fatigued by hunting, all the hunters submerged themselves in a clean, pleasantly cool water taken from various lakes, while at the same time listening to the sounds of Vedic recitation, the magnificent words of the Shastra, and the words and discourses which the students uttered all around them, because the students there were practicing the Vedas. So the only way they could able to practice is because in those days the Vedas were not written on any paper or written on any material. So they need to hear it and they need to remember it in their heart. Then the lotus eyed king spoke to the preeminent sage. Karthaveerya, Karthaveerya said, because this sight of you has occurred, my parents are now fortune, as is my birth, my knowledge, and my austerity. The tree of my merit has now fruited, and I have riches, good fortunes, an auspicious family, and renown. It is said that you are the supreme Brahma, and there can be no doubt of that. Now that I have experienced your hospitality, I am quite satisfied in my own heart. After hearing this about his Brahmic nature, smiling a little, but with his mind tranquil, the sage, even though he knew, asked him, who are you? To whom do you belong? What is your name and what is your business? Because the sage himself, knower of the past, present, and the future, certainly would be knowing everything just by looking at the face of the king. But even then, as a matter of the protocol to be followed, he asked the king, who are you? Who are your parent and from where you had come from? The king replied to him, My good fortune has made it obvious to me that for self interested kings, the only goal is to observe a person like you. I am Krithaveerya's son and I am known as Karthaveerya. With your assent, I will return to my city purified. He was so respectful towards Jamadagni. Then the sage told, O excellent warrior, I have heard of your great fame, and in consequence of my merit, my wish to see you has borne good results. Because even Jamadagni had heard about him, so he is also respecting that king. Because of your arrival, O king, my body, self, austerity, knowledge, hermitage, and all my wealth are truly significant. But how can you leave without having taken my food? Because whenever a guest appears in the home, it is a mandatory practice to offer them to have the bath, offer them the rest, and offer them the food and then clothes and other ornaments. And this is called as atithi satkara, the way one should respect the guest who came to his home. For might you not consider my prize in the world to be unwarranted? Because Karthaveerya had already heard much about the Jamadagni, so in order to ensure that it should bring good fortune to the king, Jamadagni wanted to treat him very well. Leave after you have eaten something here, O Lord, for now afford me your protection, O Lord. Then the king said, Right, it is meal time, and with your assent, something should be eaten. In case there is no food, we can drink water, which has been requested from learned Brahmins. But how can I drink water when I have left behind an incalculable number of soldiers? How can I eat, O Brahmin? I know in my heart you do not have the capacity to feed everyone. Just by seeing you, I have completed my task and now I am going. The king, the compassionate king, is saying that he cannot neither drink water nor have the food, leaving behind his huge army back in the forest. And sage Jamadagni, being himself leading a simple life, may not be having the capacity to feed that entire king's party, including his whole army. But then the sage said, Don't worry, O royal O royal sage, I will feed you and your army with four kinds of food. What cannot be accomplished by ascetics? Generally, ascetics do not use or eat the kind of food what the king and his people do eat. But even then, the kind of food what is good for you, I will ensure that the same you will be treated with the same kind of food. Let your army come here. I invite it too. But Lord, let it rest for a moment on this very pleasant, auspicious river bank until the food is prepared. Then you will see something of real interest. Thus ends the 78th chapter of Upasana Khanda of the glorious Ganesha Purana, in which the Brahma was telling the story of Shurasena to Vyasa, and then he was concluding the story saying that as per the instructions from the messengers from the Ganesha's heaven. So King Shurasena repeated the word because that leprous person was not even having the right to repeat the name of the god because of the wicked activity he has done. He had no samskara at all. So, for that reason, the king himself repeated the words of Gajanana in his ear, and with that, the leprous, wicked, evil person had got a celestial body and could able to abode the Ganesha's aerial vehicle and could able to and all of them could able to reach the abode of Ganesha. But then Brahma asked him what else you wanted to hear. Then Vyasa asked him who else had done this same Sankashtahara Chaturthi Vrata. For that, the Brahma replied, saying that Rama, Parashurama, son of Jamadagni, both father and son, had performed this Sankashta Chaturthi, and then Vyasa was interested to hear the story of Jamadagni's son Parashurama. And on account that he started telling the story that Parashurama was an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and he went out to perform the austerities in the Naimisharanya. At that time, King Krithaveerya came to the hermitage of Jamadagni while doing the hunting. Sage Jamadagni invited him as well his entire army for a feast in his ashrama and asked them to take a rest for a while in the riverbed so that soon after the food is prepared they will be invited to have the feast. Namaste Sharada Devi Kashmira Puravasini Twamaham Prarthaye Nityam Vidyadanancha Dehime. Goodbye.